calling from a 937 area code. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
Hi, this is Andrew from Ohio, and I'd like to keep it light by talking a bit about the Masterpiece Cakeshop case.
Yes, let's please do. I should just remind people what this case was. A guy in Colorado has a cake shop. Two men who are getting married come in, ask him to make a cake. He says, I won't, because I am an artist. And this is at least the argument that he makes in court. And I'm offended by making a cake with two guys on it. And so I'm not going to do it. The court ruled today by a 7-2 vote, not based upon his First Amendment claim as an artist, but that there was a procedural problem because the Colorado Civil Rights Commission, which first heard his complaint, showed
they were mean to him.
They showed a hostility to religion, and as a government entity, they should not. They need to be more neutral in terms of religion. Now, you could even argue at that point, like, wait, were they really hostile to religion? I think that's a pretty weak case too. But this is such a narrow holding. It makes Bush v. Gore look like it's broad. They did not address the main point here, and I suspect that's why you had Sotomayor and Ginsburg, I think, in dissent. I would imagine that Breyer and Kagan, they were together on that. Yeah, I imagine they signed on to this in part because it was so narrow, and this was sort of the horse trade. That's my guess. But go ahead.
The narrowness of it being about Colorado being hostile toward them, like I kind of don't know what else they're supposed to do in cases like this. I mean, I know not all states have LGBTQ protections,
right.
I can imagine that. I just don't see how else the state's supposed to go about it.
I think
just be.
The argument was there was a specific quote, I think. There
were two, I think.
Yeah, there was one or two where it was like, okay, here it is. This is the quote. This is the state civil rights commissioners. One of the statements was freedom of religion, and religion has been used to justify all kinds of discrimination throughout history, whether it be slavery, whether it be the Holocaust, whether it be, we can list hundreds of situations where freedom of religion has been used to justify discrimination. And to me, it's one of the most despicable pieces of rhetoric that people can use to use their religion to hurt others. Now, frankly, that doesn't seem to be hostile to religion. It seems to be hostile to people who would hijack religion. I had Bishop Desmond Tutu, sit in my studio 14 years ago and say religion is like a knife. You can use it to spread butter or you can use it to stab somebody. That's what that quote to me reads as.
That's a lie.
The guy's complaining about religion being used to stab somebody. And
apparently Kennedy really didn't like that bit.
That is what my understanding is. There was one other quote, and I'm not sure I have it at hand, but that is what I understand. Yeah, it is. Look, listen.
Go ahead, Dan.
Elections matter. And if Neil Gorsuch is not on this court, then this case goes a completely different way. They decide to look at the claim of a First Amendment, and they rule, sorry, dude, you want to be an artist? The statute says, are you open to the public? You're open to the public. So you got to take the public in this state and in every state in the union, in the country. Marriage equality is the law of the land. And if you don't want to make wedding cakes, don't make wedding cakes. But if you make wedding cakes, you got to do them for weddings. You can't say, hey, you're Muslim and I don't do Muslim weddings. Right? You can't say that. You can't say,
No.
you can't say you committed adultery, your second marriage. That's a sin. I'm not going to make a cake for you. You can't do it. Sorry. You just can't do it. In fact, in this instance, it's actually protected.
The points that this gentleman who has the cake shop is using are ultimately way dumber than that. Because I heard at one point it was brought up like that he would be okay with providing a cake to a gay person, like a gay man, as long as he was married to a woman, which was apparently, which the court accepted as evidence of him not being homophobic or anything, which, I mean, that's a way more fucked up definition of marriage than anything that these two people who asked him to make the cake for would have done.
Well, maybe that's very traditional marriage. I don't know. Super, super traditional. But look, here's the bottom line.
Right.
This is a very narrow, holding. It will, unless it is, look, it's never good to have any of this stuff out there because it starts to create its own, takes on its own life in some instances. But this is a very narrow holding.
Right.
And really, there's going to have to be another case like this. There's going to have to be another extremely artistic cake maker who
yeah.
There's going to have to be another extremely artistic cake maker who goes in front of the Colorado Commission or whatever one it is in a different state. This time, that commission is going to be very careful to hear the claim and not pontificate on, the history of these type of claims. You could say like, well, I think we all know that every thing can be used for leveraged by people in one way or another. And in this instance, we do not feel this is justified, and it's going to have to be more straightforward. Then it's going to have to go through the court systems and get back up to the Supreme Court. So maybe, who knows? Maybe it's in 5 years. Maybe it's in 10 years. Right now, I imagine there are right-wingers who are scouring Colorado for more artistic cake makers to reject, making a cake with two men on top. That's disgusting to have to do that when you're an artist, to be forced in that way to depict two men.
Right.
But and that's where it's at. But so it's not the ruling I would have liked, but it's about as good as you can expect from this court. Elections have implications, and I appreciate the call.